Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. As you can see behind me, we are taking a look at the ST59, so let's jump straight into it. So, here we go, we got my ST59. Shout out quickly to Willow and Aussie, who filled in some gaps here that I am missing some of the systems here. And they've sent me some screenshots, so I can show those to you. And we can have a bit of a chat about them and stuff like that. And then I'll sort of talk about what I think are the two viable builds for the ST59. But it is semi-situational because of how the armor system works. So, the ST59 is the base ST variant that you're looking at now, although ignore the heavy armor and the integrated projectile weapon platform, they have been added. So, normally you'll just have the railgun. You don't actually have the torpedoes either. Let me switch that out. It'll be the assault railgun system and the... Oh, that's the same thing again. Large cannon platform. There we go. So, your ST59 will look something like this, minus the heavy defensive and integrated projectile. I can't remove those due to the fact that I've already added them to the ship. So, you'll have the large cannon platform, the assault railgun system. Its damage is meh. Its armor's not bad, but it's the first battle cruiser you can definitely get, because in the first server that you ever play, it's at the end of the Dawn agreement, so you will get this for free, which makes it pretty decent because, you know, it's a free battle cruiser at the end of the day. And if you don't have any other choices in the battle cruiser slot, well, you're going to be running these. So, the way that super carriers work is you hit this blueprint design. This lets you swap out systems. If you have had a duplicate of the ship, if you have a duplicate, you would have a 100% chance of dropping different weapon systems. Now, these different weapon systems vary on what they do. So let's talk about the first base ones, and then we'll talk about how the other ones compare to them. So, first off, this is the base cannon system. This is the cannons that go along the top. And you can see here we have these 3 dual heavy cannon platforms doing 280 damage per hit, targeting destroyer, frigate, carrier, battlecruiser, cruiser, and a bit of siege fire and stuff like that. So, mostly anti-small, with 4 generics being anti-aircraft, with corvettes fighter priority. We then have a look at its second iteration, which is the assault turret array. This adds in these 3, you lose your aircraft ability and you lose the ability to target small, but you're adding in 450 damage per hit railguns, targeting battlecruisers, cruisers, carriers as priority. 1 round every 8 seconds with a 5-second lock-on speed. It's a decent weapon system. If you're prioritizing attacking large, this is probably the one you want to go for in the A2 slot. And then for the A3 slot, I'll be bringing this up because this is the one I'm missing, and that is the SP430 pulse turrets. These are energy-based weapons doing 250 damage per hit with the priority of destroyer and frigate. They also act as air defense against corvette and fighter. So, you're basically mainly comparing that to the large cannon platform, which is 280 damage per hit. The energy wins out. Destroyers and frigates genuinely don't have much in the way of energy resistance, if anything at all. Therefore, your SP430 is going to be winning out. So in your A3 slot, you have 2 options. For anti-large, your railgun turret array. For anti-small, your energy array. They're the 2 that I'd recommend in those slots, depending on what you want to try and kill with your ST59. Now over to its main weapon system, which is the bow-mounted A1, A2, no, this one? That one. M1, M2, and M3. Now I have all these, thankfully. So first off, you have the base assault railgun system doing 700 damage per hit, 2 attacks per round, 2 times 1 with a cooldown of 16 seconds, 88-second lock-on speed, prioritizing battleships, carrier, auxiliary ship, battlecruiser, and cruiser. Bear in mind that a railgun is a direct fire weapon, so if anything on the front line that's within its attack priority, it will be targeting those before it targets anything within the middle and the rear. We then move on to the M2, which is 200 damage per hit, dual rapid fire batteries. Now this is the interesting one, because it's a 2-second duration with the 2 attacks ×2 per round ×2, because the dual system here, with an 8-second cooldown and a 5-second lock-on speed, prioritizing small, destroyer, frigate, and then the carriers, battlecruisers, cruisers, which means this is probably your best in slot for anti-small ships. You then have the heavy torpedo, the assault torpedo system with the heavy torpedo launchers, which is 850 damage per hit every 2 seconds, fires 1 ×2 with a 16-second cooldown, 5-second lock-on time, 2 times of those, so pretty decent DPS-wise. Prioritizing battleship, carrier, auxiliary ship, battlecruiser, cruiser. Something to note, torps are indirect fire weapons, therefore it will ignore front row and hit its priorities within the mid and rear first, which is really damn useful. I highly recommend the heavy torpedo system over the assault railgun system for versus large. We are then moving on to the B slot. So in B1 we have the cluster torps. This is anti-large, carrier, battlecruiser, cruiser, with 1 × 4 attacks per round, 4-second duration, 30-second cooldown, and a 4-second lock-on speed. This is very, very similar to the Spear of Uranus's cluster torp system, the minecart system, with 3 × 4 cluster torps, and there's 4 of those. It's a lot of cluster torps that get fired out by this thing in pretty good succession, and it can dish out heavy amounts of damage versus large. Yes, it is a projectile, so it does struggle against armor, but it is a lot of it, and if it's hitting those cruisers, their armor is not going to mitigate all of this damage, and it's a lot of damage incoming their way. Definitely recommend that. For the B2 slot, it is carry medium fighters. You get 2 medium fighters. It's a hangar slot. Very, very useful. If you're not running your own carriers within this fleet, you're not running series, you're not running your CV3Ks, you can carry in a couple of medium fighters here as anti-air potentially, or as what I'd probably recommend, anti-air fighters within this slot. You then have the area fire control, the spotter UAVs, which you get 3 of. This buffs hit rate on the entire fleet, so actually not too bad. Well, it buffs the hit rate of one of your ships within the fleet, but there's 3 of them, so it can buff 3, and there's 2 of them, so you're actually buffing like a fair few with these. So not a bad system, not what I would personally recommend if you have B1 or B2 unlocked. I recommend B1 for the anti-large, but situationally B2 with the hangar is very useful if you want to add some aircraft into your arsenal. We then move on to the defensive situation, which is pretty much one of 2 choices. Choice 1, never choose C1, always choose C2 or C3. So C1 is this additional armor system. You can see here it adds 15% extra HP. It's got some HP buffs that you can add in. Not particularly recommended, to be honest, because it is genuinely outperformed by the heavy defensive and the EM armor. So in C2, you get the EM armor, which is AEX 120 EM armor, which is a 35% energy seal. That's 35% energy resistance off the base as well, which is just really, really nice. And yeah, it's got 2 slots to increase the energy resistance even further. I believe it caps out around 85% energy resistance if you upgrade the entire ship for it, which pretty much mitigates most IO damage and stuff like that. So if you do see enemies using a lot of energy damage fleets, run the EM armor. On the other hand, if you're seeing a lot of heavy damage fleets that are just railguns and stuff like that, run the heavy armor. This does unfortunately reduce your ship evasion by 10% and reduces your weapons hit rate by 5%, but it's, you know, it's negligible compared to adding 250 armor at base and then further upgrading all the way up to, I believe, 730 armor. So the two builds that I recommend is anti-small and anti-large, where you'll be running the railguns with the assault torpedo system and the integrated projectile platform with either heavy armor or EM armor. You can then run the anti-small version, which is the bow-mounted battery system with the either the energy or the large cannon. I'd recommend the energy, the A3, if you have it. If you don't, use the large cannon. And you can either then switch your integrated projectile platform to the area fire control if you want to buff your fleet up a little bit, or into the B2 slot, which is the hangar, and add in a couple of system damage fighters, or add in some anti-air fighters. And then, depending on what you're fighting, either the EM armor or the heavy defensive armor. Ignore the additional armor system. Unfortunately, it's pretty useless. So, there we go. That's my recommendations for the ST59, and that's all the subsystems for it. I will be doing one for the CTG, the Spear, and also the CV3K I have as well. Missing weapon systems for the Solar Whale, so I can't do that yet. And I can do it for the Eternal Storm as well. So there'll be one for all of the battle cruisers, the CV3K, and I'll get round to the Solar Whale eventually as well. So keep an eye out for those videos as they drop if you're interested in what I recommend you build on each of those ships and what systems to be looking for and to go for. And there you go. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.